Post 2007, Emotions Cloud Judgment. Q Post 1690, you were witnessing, watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Power will return to the people. We know that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter it or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for the light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariable the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is our duty to throw off such a government and to provide new guards for their future security. Q. 1700. Now, I don't think he's trying to incite violence or tell anybody to do anything, but it is our duty, it is our right to pay attention, to make sure this never happens to our government in the first place. Now, if you have a corrupt government in play and you're trying to take it back to the beginning, take it back to what it's supposed to be, of course the whole time bad actors will be screaming, you're a terrorist, you're this, you're that, and try to flip it all around on you. What do people do when they're backed in a corner? They have nothing left. They're losing all their power. They become desperate. And we all know desperate times call for desperate measures. As I was debating on where and how to start this post, the maestro tweeted this tweet. This tweet is 31 seconds of pure beauty, where Hussein is contradicting all the current talking points of the left regarding the way Trump is handling the caravan and immigration in general.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
One thing I like to do after reading the maestro's tweets, especially when they are this savage, is to laugh at the haters, the chills, the trolls, and the mob responding to a devastating stealth B2 heavy carpet bombing on their village with what they have left from their stone, egg, and broken arrow supplies. Then I go through some of the MAGA replies and just start laughing. Some of them are priceless, folks. Check it out for yourself. Just go to Trump's tweets, go to any tweet, and just look below. Look at some of the responses. Now this Trump tweet reveals the hypocrisy of the left when it comes to immigration and shows that they're not serious about solving its related issues. When Trump asked Chuck and Nancy to call him in his tweet, he knows they never will, because for them, immigration is a weapon to be used to gain political positions while deceptively playing with the public's emotions. Why would they call him now when they refuse his January 2018 offer to grant citizenship to 1.8 million dreamers in exchange for the border wall?
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer. 1.8 million illegal immigrants, those who signed up for DACA and those who were eligible to, would have a pathway toward legal status under an immigration reform plan rolled out at the White House today. That plus $30 billion for a border wall and increased technology for border security are the biggest headlines in the first look at this plan. Not yet a bill or an agreement with Congress. This is the administration's marker as the clock ticks down on a deadline that was part of a deal to end the government shutdown and avoid another one. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel has the breaking details from Capitol Hill with what we know at this hour. Good evening, Mike.
Brett, good evening. Sources familiar tell Fox here are the key points of the White House immigration blueprint. Secure the border, securing both the southern and northern border with a combination of infrastructure, technology, and personnel. That includes a $25 billion trust fund for the border wall system. DACA legalization provides legal status for DACA recipients and other DACA-eligible immigrants, up to an estimated 1.8 million people. Protect the nuclear family, promote nuclear family migration, limiting family sponsorships to spouses and minor children, and eliminate the lottery and repurpose visas. White House officials suggest the program is riddled with fraud and abuse and does not serve the national interest. The White House starting to roll out its proposal as lawmakers here on Capitol Hill are trying to develop their own plan.
That's what we want.
Now! Lawmakers have been getting an earful from immigration activists demanding a DACA deal now. As the White House prepares to unveil its immigration reform framework, the Senate Republican whip described the various components of a potential immigration deal as being pieces of a puzzle.
I know people are going to focus on one part of it and say, well, we want to do that and we don't want to do the rest. But I think the message from the president, you'll probably hear on Monday, is that this is part of a package.
Last night, President Trump talked about dreamers earning a path to citizenship.
Over a period of 10 to 12 years, somebody does a great job. They've worked hard. It gives incentive to do a great job, but they've worked hard. They've done terrifically, whether they have a little company or whether they work or whatever they're doing. If they do a great job, I think it's a nice thing to have the incentive of, after a period of years, being able to become a citizen.
A GOP senator who has clashed frequently with the president cautiously sang his praises on immigration today.
Who knows if others will try to pull him back. But we'll see. I've always said his instincts are better than the advice that he's getting on DACA.
The Senate Democratic leader shared Senator Flake's concerns that hardliners close to the president could walk him back.
The White House, unfortunately, has proven unreliable and wildly unpredictable. Within a course of hours, they say different things. Every time the president moves forward on one thing, his staff pulls him back and undoes what he said.
And Schumer is painting a scary picture if lawmakers miss their deadline.
This administration will start separating families, taking kids out of school, service members out of our military, workers out of our companies. They will rip them from the American fabric in which they're embedded.
Today, the House Majority Leader said all will have to compromise.
There are going to be things that I probably in this bill that if we all work together that I will vote for that I probably wouldn't write by myself. But there's going to have to be things in there that maybe another side wouldn't vote for.
The White House is urging the Senate to draw up legislation based on its plan and introduce it the week of February 5th. That would be just days before the government's due to run out of money once again. But they believe with these key points, that's the best opportunity for Congress to get a deal on DACA. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thanks.
Citizenship. Democrats do not want that. Not for their immigrants. What they want is a portfolio of people in a precautious state so they can control them and tell them how to vote. A border wall? Democrats do not want that either. The existing portfolio needs to be updated with new surviving, hungry, and vulnerable arrivals. This is a pinnacle of human trafficking. Folks, the merchandise is not sex, but votes. Prostitution through immigration politics. One of the reasons why I like watching CNN is the same reason I liked watching snakes at the zoo when I was a kid. The cages all those snakes were put in gave me all I needed to coldly analyze them. Now, knowing that CNN is fake news from the get-go, before I even turn it on, it allows me to scrutinize their reporters' every word, to fully understand, to detect their hidden masters, their moves, and their strategies. When Trump stated that Dems were behind the Caravan, CNN invited Van Jones in a useless effort to debunk him, as shown later. But the interesting part was when Allison Camerado tried to raise the real questions and to share a theory. Let's listen to her from 9:37 in this video till about 12 minutes.
I don't agree with it, but I don't think it's going to be ineffective.
Van, I have a theory that's been shot down every hour by every one of our guests. So I'm going to try it one more time, okay? On you. This shows my tenacity. I think that he may talk about the Caravan because obviously that gins up the base, but I think that the illegal immigration numbers are not working for the president because they have gone up. Family illegal border crossings, or family units, at least that's what it's being called, have spiked since he had to change his hideous family separation policy, and individual border crossings have gone up in 2018 over 2017. And my point is that whatever he's doing is not working at the border, and won't that be disappointing to his supporters?
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're sticking with that.
I'm sticking with it. I am sticking with it.
You know,
I'm going with the numbers.
Here's what I like about it.
Okay.
I like that it shows a faith in rationality, in reason, in numbers, and in the idea that somebody might ever hear what you just said and care.
He's such a nice guy.
So
He's
I
too
like
nice
that.
to tell
I
you
like
you're
that.
wrong.
But what I would say is that no, that is not how it's going to work. If he ever admits that the numbers are going up, he'll just blame the Republicans. He'll just blame the Democrats.
That is what he's doing. But how could they? But the Republicans run the government.
Here's the thing. There's a
Allison, stop with your facts.
No, exactly. It's like I wish. Actually, I'm so glad that somebody who's in the industry like you are every day has still that much faith in people and in reason. It's actually a very good thing. My experience so far, at least the past 3 years, is that that's less powerful. And what's more powerful is the narrative. And the narrative is, I'm doing everything I can. I'm trying to build this wall. I'm trying to drop nuclear bombs on these families and destroy it. And the Democrats won't let me. Give me more power and I'll give you more outcomes. And I think that in Trump world, every single fact gets turned into an argument for Trump to have more power.
Right. The fact is, again, illegal border crossings are historically at a very low point.
But they have gone up in the I'm just happy that
understand.
Van didn't throw like a glass of cold water in my face.
You are 0 for show on
I
this
really
subject.
am.
Actually, I want to end, if I can, on John Kelly and John Bolton, who apparently...
Did you catch all the awkward moments in this exchange? Camerota said illegal border crossing numbers went up in 2018, and that this fact could be used against Trump to show his immigration policy was not working. Look at Jones, his face, and she is outlining her theory. He is like, wait, Camerota, are you crazy? You're giving away our strategy. Yes, all this is about distancing Trump from his base, but we're not supposed to say it out loud. If people were to hear what you've just said about the border crossings, there is no way we'll be able to still fight against funding the wall. He tries to help her walk back with, wow, and you're sticking with that? But she does not get it. Instead, we get the fake smiles, the fake laughs, and everybody's feeling uncomfortable, except Camerota. She probably took an honesty pill by mistake that morning. Then when Jones starts lying and deflecting, she hits him with, the Republicans weren't the government. That's when the other guest weighs in to save a now drowning Van Jones with a surreal CNN. This is a banana moment. Allison, stop with your facts. It's amazing stuff. Then at 11:09, did you catch John Brennan receiving a message in his earpiece while Camerota is realizing her huge mistake? At 11:37, we get to know what was told to Brennan in his earpiece. He corrects Camerota with a laconic, illegal border crossings are historically at a very low point. He then tries to quickly switch to the prepared White House gossips before Camerota recovers from the blow she has just received from the hidden masters. In vain, she had enough time to swiftly insert her glass of cold water joke. My best guess, she'll be gone soon. From this exchange and Camerota's mistake, we gather the hidden master's strategy is to use immigration to try to distance Trump from his fan base. This explains why Chuck and Nancy could not make a deal with Trump in January. They could not afford to lose a card. They wanted to play for the midterms. But then, how do you play the immigration card when you do not have a clear policy? You Kavanaugh the issue. You bring a Balsley Ford Caravan from Honduras who will accuse Trump of being heartless. Then, to give weight to this accusation and gain public opinion support, you add some flake elevator spice by making sure it coincides with the murder of the Saudi reporter Khashoggi. Then you fake your outrage when Trump does not consider canceling the arms deal with the Saudis. Pretty cool, right? The problem is Trump already knows your playbook and has found the antidote. He knows how to nullify your emotional scams and find the right responses. Do you remember this episode?
Can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
But Greg is smart. And by the way, never wrestle him. You understand that? Never. Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind of... He's my guy.
We'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have the
Speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last guy that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the guardian.
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
If you'd like me to get the hell up here, I'd also like to call the police. Can I get you guys' names?
Hey, you gotta leave.
He just body slammed me.
You gotta leave.
It's perhaps the most surreal experience of my life that I've asked countless politicians, countless questions, you know, in my career in journalism, and nothing like this has ever remotely happened.
And I heard about it. And we endorsed Greg very early. But I had heard that he body slammed a reporter. And he was way up. And he was way up. And I said, oh, this was like the day of the election or just before. And I said, oh, this is terrible. He's going to lose the election. Then I said, well, wait a minute. I know Montana pretty well. I think it might help him. And it did.
And now to the Balsley Ford Caravan from Honduras. We're going to have fun with this.
Very soon. Yes, go ahead.
Brother, just to follow up on your comments about being a nationalist, there is a concern that you are sending coded language or a dog whistle to some Americans out there that what you really mean is that you're a white nationalist.
I've never even heard that. I cannot imagine that. You mean I say I'm a nationalist? No, I never heard that theory about being a nationalist. I've heard them all. But I'm somebody that loves our country. When I say a nationalist, I don't like it when Germany's paying 1% of GDP for NATO, and we're paying 4.3%. I don't like that. That's not fair. I don't like it when, as an example, we're protecting Europe, and we're paying for almost the entire cost of NATO. We're paying for a very, very substantial portion, far greater than what it should be. We have great respect for those countries, but on top of that, I don't like it when they put up barriers to our farmers, where our farmers cannot sell into Europe. They have trade barriers that make it, you guys know it better than anybody. They have trade barriers that are as severe as China's trade barriers, which will be coming down. They want to make a deal very badly. They'll be coming down. But I am very proud of our country. We cannot continue to allow what's happened to our country to continue to happen. We can't let it happen. So I'm proud of our country. And I am a nationalist. It's a word that hasn't been used too much. People use it, but I'm very proud. I think it should be brought back. I'm somebody that wants to help other countries of the world, but I also have to take care of our country. We cannot continue to allow ourselves to be duped on military and also duped on trade. With the European Union, as an example, last year on trade, we lost $151 billion. On top of that, we lost hundreds of billions of dollars on protection. So we protect and we get killed. We do the trading and they get killed. Can't do it. I want it to be fair. So I want them to open their borders. I want them to make it fair for our farmers, our companies, our medical companies. They sell medical equipment. They just put restrictions on a year and a half ago where the medical equipment can't get into Europe, even though it's better than what they have. So they have to treat us well. All I want our country is to be treated well, to be treated with respect. For many years, other countries that are allies of ours, so-called allies, they have not treated our country fairly. So in that sense, I am absolutely a nationalist, and I'm proud of it. Yes,
Mr. President, you said this weekend and yesterday that you were planning a tax.
We'll do a resolution. We're going to put in.
Explain what you mean by resolution?
Well,
and can you
very
tell
simple.
us
Very
just
simple.
broadly how this is going to look, how it's going to work?
If you speak to Kevin Brady and a group of people, we're putting in a tax reduction of 10%, which I think will be a net neutral because we're doing other things, which I don't have to explain now, but it'll be pretty much of a net neutral, but it'll be great for the middle class. It's going to be a tax reduction of 10% for the middle class. Business will not enter into it. And this will be on top of the tax reduction that the middle class has already gotten. And we're putting in a resolution probably this week. I think you folks know about it. And Kevin Brady's been working on it very hard, really for a couple of months. We'll put that in and we'll start the work after the sometime after the midterms.
Mr. President, why the decision now to send 2 U.S. Navy warships through the Taiwans?
I'll leave that decision to myself and my generals and my admirals, okay? Not to you.
Are you worried about any negative reaction from China?
I'm not worried about anything. I don't worry about things.
Mr. President, on the tax cut proposal, when you say that you want a middle-class tax cut, is that an acknowledgement that the original GOP tax cut was too heavily tilted in favor of wealthier Americans and corporations?
No, it really wasn't.
Well, why bring it out now?
It's been great. I mean, the tax cut that we had, even if you look at estate taxes and what it's done for the small farmers and for small businesses, if you look at the past, I'm talking about the one that was passed, we're very proud of it. And what it did more than anything else, it brought jobs, tremendous numbers of jobs. That's why our job numbers, you hear it all the time when I speak. I mean, we have the best numbers, literally, we've ever had. African American unemployment, lowest ever. Asian American, Hispanic American, no matter what category you look at. Women, 65 years, lowest in 65 years. A lot of that was done by regulation cutting, and a lot of it was done by the tax plan. And that all inures, obviously, to the middle class. In addition, they paid less. I mean, they walk away with $2,000, $1,000, $4,000, a lot of money. This is in addition to that. But on this one, we're not going to do any business because we think the business is really very incentivized. On this one, we're doing a pure 10% tax cut for the middle class, in addition to what they've already gotten in the first cut.
But shouldn't the middle class have gotten a bigger tax cut to begin with?
Well, I didn't think we could get any more than we got. I mean, we got the max. And now, because of the fact that the economy is doing so well, we feel that we can give up some more. I couldn't have gotten that extra 10% when we originally passed the plan. We maxed out. Now, and we had to take care of jobs. Jobs are very important. We gave the middle class a lot, but we couldn't have. Now, as you've obviously seen, business has done so well. We've brought in many hundreds of millions of dollars from offshore because of the tax plan. And that all went to creating Apple as an example. I was with them. They're going to be spending $350 billion on building new facilities in the United States, which is something, as you know, from a long time ago. I've been saying it from the beginning. I want Apple to build their plants here. They're going to spend $350 billion. They're bringing in $230 billion offshore because of our tax plan. Now that helps everybody. That's good for everybody. But this is in addition to the very substantial tax cuts that the middle class has already gotten. So this will be a 10%. It's going to be a resolution probably introduced this week, the end of the week, or early next week. And Kevin Brady has been drawing it up actually for a while. We've been working on it very hard for a pretty long period of time. Okay?
Mr. President.
Yes, Jeff, go ahead. Finish up.
Yeah, there was somebody else, sir. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes.
Mr. President, you said yesterday that you expected a briefing from from investigators today on the Saudi case. Is that still the case? Or?
Well, they're heading back. A couple of them are heading back. Gina, as an example, went to Turkey.
Have you heard anything preliminary?
I've heard, but I'd rather talk about it when everybody's back here.
Okay, so tomorrow you expect that?
I think they'll be back tonight and tomorrow, early tomorrow. Almost all of them.
And ahead of your meetings in Paris with President Putin and some other European leaders, have you spoken to any of them about the Saudi issue?
Yes, we have, and Mike Pompeo has, and John Bolton is actually over there now. We've spoken to many of them. They are... Nobody likes what happened, let me put it that way. There's nobody that said, oh, gee, that's wonderful. They were all very angry about it, and they're very upset about it. Nobody more so than me.
What do you think it means for the broader relationship going forward, whether or not this bill, or whether...
Well, it's a good question, and I think what I'm going to be doing is maybe a little bit what I did with respect to the FBI investigations having to do with Justice Kavanaugh when they were asked for more time by the Democrats. I said, look, I'm going to leave it up to the senators that were doing the job. And I think here I'm going to leave it up very much to Congress. Congress has some very strong ideas both ways. I've been told by certain senators we want that investment to keep coming. At the same time, that doesn't mean that they're not going to do something. There has to be some kind of retribution. There has to be, no matter what you do. I've been told by others that they don't want investment of $450 billion. I think that's foolish, but there are some that feel that. But I'm going to leave it very much, in terms of what we ultimately do, I'm going to leave it very much in conjunction with me up to Congress. And that means Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, and one independent. But I want to have the folks in Congress come back and make recommendations to me. Because I'd like that to be a bipartisan recommendation. I think we can get a bipartisan recommendation, I really do. Because I don't think they feel any differently than I do. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing.
Mr. President, why do you think something like this could have happened? Do you think that there was a failure of leadership on the world stage, that Saudi Arabia wasn't concerned about...
They had a very bad original concept. It was carried out poorly, and the cover-up was one of the worst in the history of cover-ups. It's very simple. Bad deal, should have never been thought of. Somebody really messed up, and they had the worst cover-up ever. And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, where they thought about it, because whoever thought of that idea, I think, is in big trouble. And they should be in big trouble. Okay? Yes. Anybody else?
Mr. President, one more thing on the Caravan. You had said that there were Middle Easterners in the Caravan. Can you explain that? Are you saying there are terrorists?
Well, there could very well be. Yeah, there could very well be. And if you look at,
do you know for sure?
I have very good information. And if you look at what's happened with Honduras and statements made about Honduras, and even a phone call that our vice president had today, which I think you can maybe reveal. Do you want to mention that, Mike? Is that okay? Probably.
Certainly.
Go ahead, please.
No, at the President's direction, I spoke to President Hernandez of Honduras. He told me that the caravan that's now making its way through Mexico, headed for the southern border, was organized by leftist organizations and financed by Venezuela. As we've said...
And the Democrat, Mike, about ISIS, did they say something?
Well, just that it's been organized by leftist groups. They've made their way north. Once they crossed into Guatemala, now crossed into Mexico. There's some estimates north of 7,000 migrants, so the group is growing. The United States of America intervenes and prevents 10 terrorists or suspected terrorists from coming into our country every day. So it is inconceivable that there would not be individuals from the Middle East as a part of this growing caravan. What the President's determined to do is to put the safety and security of the American people first. And I know the President will be addressing this in the coming days about ways we need to close the loopholes that human traffickers and other dangerous individuals used to entice vulnerable families to make the long and dangerous trek north.
Mr. Vice President, are you saying that you have evidence that there are terrorists in the Caravan right now?
What I can say to you is,
you're saying statistically there's been a number over the years. That's not the same as saying there are terrorists in the Caravan. There are a lot of Middle Easterners who live in the United States, Americans of Middle Eastern descent, who find that kind of rhetoric.
I'll take it. Paul, let me just say this.
Isn't that true, Mr. President?
Let me just tell you something. I spoke with Border Patrol this morning, and I spoke to them last evening, and I spoke to them the day before. I speak to them all the time. And they say, and you know this as well as anybody, over the course of the year, over the course of a number of years, they've intercepted many people from the Middle East. They've intercepted ISIS. They've intercepted all sorts of people. They've intercepted good ones and bad ones. They've intercepted wonderful people from the Middle East, and they've intercepted bad ones. They've intercepted wonderful people from South America and from other parts further south. They've intercepted a lot of different people, but among the people they've intercepted very recently are people from the Middle East, okay? So you can't be surprised when you hear it. You've heard that before. It happens all the time. And I spoke to him literally last night. I spoke to another one this morning. Very good relationship with Border Patrol and ICE. And they say it happens all the time from the Middle East. But it's not even saying bad or good, but some real bad ones. But they intercept.
They're in the Caravan.
Well, they could very well be.
But there's no proof.
There's no proof of anything. There's no proof of anything. But they could very well be. If you look at what that was building, you know, they were talking about 5,000 or 6,000 people. I'm pretty good at estimating crowd size, as you probably have figured out. You tend to get it a little bit off the real number. Last night, as an example, that was record-setting stuff, wasn't it, huh? But they don't want to talk about that. But I will tell you, let me just tell you, that I believe that that was pretty big. That was pretty impressive by any standard. And these are great people. And by the way, your vote, we just heard the vote is, and this could be good, bad, or indifferent for Democrats or Republicans, but the amount of voting is at a level that they've never seen before for the midterms. You heard that. I mean, I don't know whether I'm supposed to say that's good or bad, but I will tell you the amount of people voting is at a level, Sarah, that you've never seen at midterms, a record level by a lot. So I think there's a very good chance, honestly, that you have people in there. I also think there's a very good chance that over a course of a period of time you have, or they don't have to necessarily be in that group. But certainly you have people coming up through the southern border from the Middle East and other places that are not appropriate for our country. And I'm not letting them in. They're not coming in, all right? They're not coming in. We're going to do whatever we have to. They're not coming in. Okay?
You don't think you're counting on this to try to stoke
no, not at
fear
all.
and cause alarm to drive up?
I'm a very...
Bingo. Our excellent Vice President Pence informs us the Caravan was organized by leftist organizations and financed by Venezuela. And his source is no other than President of Honduras himself. Then we learn that as the Caravan is moving towards our border, it is being infiltrated by all types of people, including possible terrorists from the Middle East, ISIS, MS-13, so on, so forth, etc. Did you hear the journalists insisting questions about terrorists being in the Caravan? It sounded like Jim Acosta. This is Mockingbird Media preparing their talking points. They know Trump cannot disclose classified information, so they ask him a question he will not answer, only to, and then, accuse him of making claims without evidence. The problem is these claims are not new. The fake news knows it very well. Latin America being infiltrated by ISIS, border trafficking routes being used to import terrorists into the U.S., and terrorists posing as refugees. This is nothing new. This is all claimed by Homeland Security, and this happened under Hussein when he was still president. It's right here in this article. As early as 2015, we know Latin America smuggling networks used by drugs, human trafficking, the MS-13 were targeted to facilitate ISIS entrance into the U.S. to help and aid them get in. Watch this.
Statement, you said, quote, in addition to thousands of Central Americans fleeing poverty and violence, foreign nationals from countries like Somalia, Bangladesh, Lebanon, and Pakistan are using the region's human smuggling networks to enter the United States. While many are merely seeking economic opportunity or fleeing war, a small subset could potentially be seeking to do us harm. Last year, ISIS adherents posted discussions on social media calling for the infiltration of the U.S. southern border. Can you tell us how serious you think that threat is?
I think, Senator, that the kind of people that you're referring to, of course, their intent is to do us the greatest amount of harm possible. This network that Bill and I deal with every day, not to mention the law enforcement folks, is so efficient that if a terrorist or almost anyone wants to get into our country, they just pay the fare. No one checks their passports. No one, they don't go through metal detectors. No one cares why they're coming. They just ride this network. And if someone wanted to come in here with nuclear material, I was just down at Emory University at the Ebola facility there, talking about how Ebola spreads and potentially could be used as a weapon. It's a scary proposition when I think of this network.
So how serious, in your view, is it that over time there may be an effort by terrorists to cross our southern border?
Extremely serious.
I thank you, General Kelly, and I thank you for your honorable service, and thank you, Admiral.
The ISIS at the border threat. How real is that?
Well, they don't have nearly the ability, these countries I'm talking about, and in general, the countries in the Western Hemisphere, they don't have nearly the ability to track people like we do. Again, FBI, Homeland Security, websites, not websites, but databases and all that kind of thing. And when you're in this part of the world, you travel pretty freely between countries. There are legal ways to do it, but then there are just simply people who walk across borders. And then, as I've described many times, the network that comes up through the isthmus in Mexico that carries anything and everything on it, it'd be a relatively, and again, not to take anything away from the Department of Homeland Security, men and women, FBI and all, they just do a magnificent job, but the amount of movement is what I think overwhelms our ability to and the sophistication of the network overwhelms our ability to stop everything. So I think if they get back to some of these countries that I've described, it's pretty easy for them to move around.
Now you understand why Trump picked General Kelly to become his first Secretary for Homeland Security. You want more? Sure. June 2016, Admiral Kurt Tidd also expressed his concern about ISIS spreading in Latin America in an effort to enter the U.S. using refugee streams through our then porous borders.
The top U.S. military commander in Latin America says he's becoming increasingly concerned about radical Islamic extremists, using the region as a pathway into the U.S. Speaking to a group of reporters Wednesday, June 1st, Admiral Kurt Tidd, commander of U.S. Southern Command, said that radicalization is occurring in Latin America, adding that ISIS could exploit trafficking organizations in the region to infiltrate the United States. Quote, we just have to recognize that this theater is a very attractive target. Tidd, who took over as Southcom commander in January, said ISIS has attracted up to 150 recruits from Latin America, with a small number of those attempting to return to the region. He added that what's worrisome is that these recruits have been instructed to carry out lone wolf attacks wherever they are if they're unable to get to the Middle East. For Newsbeat Social from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
As you can see, the fake news Mockingbird media is playing dumb with Trump's claim. They know very well what he's talking about. It's been covered extensively in the past. Extensively. The Caravan is an operation the Dems had ready to go in case Kavanaugh was confirmed. It's right here in Q 2289. A tweet by Susan Orlean. We will not sit by idle if he is confirmed. You've been warned. Now, Trump is ready yesterday It's your move. Right here, the left warned, folks. They warned they would retaliate if Kavanaugh was confirmed. And we are now witnessing that. Q 128. Moves and counter moves. They never thought she would lose. Trump's views getting stronger in the Supreme Court, and Kavanaugh brilliantly sharing with us the beauty of our military law was enough for the Dems to have to win the midterms at all cost.
We were watching as the standing with her when the buildings fell.
So when somebody says post 9/11 that we've been at war, and it's called the war on terrorism, do you generally agree with that concept?
I do, Senator, because Congress passed the authorization for use of military force, which is still in effect, and that was passed, of course, on September 14th, 2001, 3 days later.
Let's talk about the law in war. Is there a body of law called the law of armed conflict?
There is such a body, Senator.
Is there a body of law that's called basic criminal law?
Yes, Senator.
Are there differences between those two bodies of law?
Yes, Senator.
From an American citizen's point of view, do your constitutional rights follow you? If you're in Paris, does the Fourth Amendment protect you as an American from your own government?
From your own government, yes.
Okay. So, if you're in Afghanistan, do your constitutional rights protect you against your own government?
If you're an American in Afghanistan, you have constitutional rights as against the U.S. government.
Is there a long-standing...
That's long-settled law.
Isn't there also a long-settled law that it goes back to the Eisentrager case? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, Johnson versus Eisentrager.
Right. That American citizens who collaborate with the enemy have considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be. They're sometimes criminally prosecuted, sometimes treated in the military.
Well, let's talk about can be. I think
under Supreme Court precedent.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a Supreme Court decision that said that American citizens who collaborated with Nazi saboteurs were tried by the military. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think a couple of them were executed.
Yeah.
So if anybody doubts, there's a long-standing history in this country that your constitutional rights follow you wherever you go, but you don't have a constitutional right to turn on your own government and collaborate with the enemy of the nation. You'll be treated differently. What's the name of the case, if you can recall, that reaffirmed the concept that you could hold one of our own as an enemy combatant if they were engaged in terrorist activities in Afghanistan? Are you familiar with that case?
Yeah, Hamdi.
Okay. So the bottom line is, I want every American citizen to know you have constitutional rights, but you do not have a constitutional right to collaborate with the enemy. There's a body of law well developed long before 9/11 that understood the difference between basic criminal law and the law of armed conflict. Do you understand those differences?
I do understand that they're different bodies of law, of course, Senator.
Okay, if you're confirmed, and I believe you will be, what is your hope when all of this is said and done and your time is up? How would you like to be remembered?
A good dad, good judge,
good husband.
I think he's getting there.
Good husband.
Thanks, Diane. You help.
Yet there are powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement.
Getting illegals to vote is one way to cheat. The other is to force Trump to focus his attention on the Caravan while conducting voter fraud activities. Sorry, it's not going to work. This is the very reason Trump tweeted this in the middle of the Caravan crisis. All levels of government and law enforcement are watching carefully for voter fraud, including during early voting. Cheat at your own peril. Violators will be subject to maximum penalties, both civil and criminal. Then, to give us an idea of what really is going on behind the scenes and where to look on Qboard, the Maestro posted a challenging tweet. Look at this timestamp of tweet 1004. Let's go to Q1004. We find a random B as in border. We look for all the instances where B for border is unduly capitalized. We find the only post is Q1009. Q1009? 1009? October 9? This is the day Q went silent with Q2381. And there you have it. The Maestro's tweet led us right back to Q1009, where we learned Q already had the intel as early as April of 2018 that there was an operation financed by private funds, gathering clown black ops at the border, using the MS-13, drugs, human trafficking, etc., the fast lanes that the Dems were involved with. Future proofs past. Now we understand why Q concluded this post with Q1009. The wall means more than you know. The fight for the wall is for so much more. Q. Do you see it now? Their strategy has always been to import black ops in the US using the illegal immigrant stream as a cover, and Latin America as a training and launching platform. ISIS was the main instrument for implementation. This is why Hussein never addressed the ISIS issue seriously or directly and just looked the other way, while generals like Flynn and Kelly were preaching in the desert. As you can see, it's not complicated. It's very simple. Q570, the 16-year plan to destroy America. Q2086, they never thought she would lose. Q. I am Michael. This is a Patriot Hour. God bless, Godspeed to each and every one of you worldwide. Where we go one, we go all.